Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I am Ariana.
And I'm Cami. It's in our hearts to expand your mind and reality
and elevate the consciousness of the world,
one conversation at a time. Hello and welcome to Conscious Conversations with Ariana and Cami. I'm Cami.
And I am Ariana. And today we are talking about be your own guru. You know, this topic for me was actually inspired by some negative experiences that I have had in my earlier years with people who claimed to be spiritual leaders, way showers, gurus, whatever other parallel title to those frequencies and positions that you may hear or come across, who had not necessarily done all of the work that they should have, and were coming from more of a ego-based or maybe even crossing the line into narcissistic tendencies. And it was really, for me, eye-opening when I came across a documentary. And the title of that documentary, I encourage people to look it up, is called Kumare. It's Kumare. And it is a documentary about a guy who is American, but of some Indian descent, like from India, not American Indian. And he appear, whatever his vocation is, he appears to have a lot of money, and he goes overseas and starts studying under different well-known gurus, because he has the money to, do these one-on-ones with some really big names in the spiritual industry, in spiritual communities. And what he discovered is that a lot of what they were teaching was either hypocritical, or they really weren't practicing what they were preaching from his point of view. And so he put together this documentary where he dressed up as a Indian guru, and I think he goes through California and puts on this whole show, dog and pony show, to prove that anyone can be a guru. And at the end of the movie, he reveals himself to his 20 plus followers that he is actually just a regular guy. Now, what I really do encourage people to watch this movie, because there's some profundities to it. What he teaches his followers is actually really profound and heart-based, because a lot of what he tells them is to look within and feel into their hearts. So he's operating as the guru he wished he could have found in his seeking. And so I may get emotional because the movie really does move me a lot. And what he teaches is really, I believe, truly a pure way of looking at spirituality. But at the end of the reveal, there are a few of his followers that are so angry that they've been tricked that they walk out. And then there are others that are so grateful for what they taught him that it's irrelevant that he was not necessarily who he claimed to be, because he was embodying that type of pure heart-based teacher, and he had taught them, and he had helped them, and he had shown them deep insights in themselves. Amazing movie. Sorry. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Cami, so I can collect myself again.
Oh, Ariana, thank you for sharing so deeply from your heart and the way that that movie impacted you. and for reminding me of some pieces of it. I loved that movie. I loved it. I remember there's so many of these little sayings. It's like we've heard this so many times, but you know what? That's why we have so many teachers, because they can be saying exactly the same thing, but the way that it's conveyed with their vocal tones and with their energy and whatever it is that they're embodying, that may insert some keys, turn some keys for different people. So it's all okay. The way that it is, as much as some of this stuff hurts, I was so inspired by the results that came out of that. Yes, there were some people who were angry with his dishonesty, and obviously they have some betrayal wounds to look at. So even there, it's a beautiful thing. Just not really comfortable. But the ones that were benefited by that experience and what they came out of that with, and then what they're able to then share with everybody in their lives, that's how this stuff works, and that's why it's beautiful. But yes, and it just brings to light how important it is to pay attention to your heart, not to, I mean, it can be so easy to fall prey to, I'll word it that way right now, fall prey to narcissistic, charismatic characters, right? Who really believe themselves to have the answers. And they can be so convincing. And I will say there is a lesson even in that, and they are a gift. And when we're able to come around to a point where we see the gifts that they're able to offer and we're grateful for it, we know that we've made some really massive progress. And it also it irks me, it can incite some righteous anger in me when I see that happening. People being, especially when there is emotional and sexual abuse, but really on any level of non-consensual violation is cause for concern. Anyway, when you find somebody who leads you back to you. Anybody who does not lead you back to you, who claims to have the only answer and the only way, and well, I'm the only one that is able to channel this entity and blah 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 blah. Please let that be a red flag. Please. Anybody who leads you back to you and gives you confirmations, and continually guides you back to your own heart and your own answers, please seek that. That's where the truth lies. And so that is one of many reasons that I so enjoyed that documentary, because he really cast a good light on that. I understand people feel lost and they are looking for somebody that they think has the answers. You are setting yourself up potentially to be misguided if you give your power away in any way, especially to spiritual leaders or people who have designated themselves as spiritual leaders or spiritual teachers. We have so many available, so many guides, so many life coaches, so many different people, and find the ones that are right for you, that truly help you, and that you're making the decision not out of scarcity but out of inspiration. Somebody who inspires you
Yep.
to
And
come back.
I think I'd like to add to that, when you find someone that you respect and that you honor, it's still not a healthy position to put them on a pedestal,
Never.
or I use this term loosely, but I feel like it's the best description, or make them your God.
For real.
I can't tell you the number of people that have come to me and they're like, just tell me what to do. And I'm like,
I don't
no,
want your power.
I do not want that karma. You have your path, you have your lessons. I will give suggestions, but you've got to feel it in your heart, and you've got to learn to make your own choices. You've got to learn to not be dependent upon really anyone other than your own inner voice and your own higher power, whatever that is, but not another human in a flesh suit, because we all have our faults and our flaws and our things that we're working on. And even the most well-meaning guru, leader, spiritual leader, still has things that they're working on if they have a flesh suit on. None of us are perfect. So you really have to, even if they do give you advice, please put it through your own filter of your heart and your gut and your soul. Don't just blindly follow anything that anyone says. That
Well,
is really a recipe for disaster, victimization, shame, blame, humiliation.
you're setting yourself up for that. And it's a mirror of where you're betraying yourself and whatever. If you for some reason need to have those experiences, then okay. And you'll learn or you won't. We learn or we don't. But I echo that, giving the power away, please, 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 especially anybody that you deem to be a spiritual guide or teacher or what have you. Please, please, please don't deify them. Don't put them on a pedestal, as Ariana says. That's not fair to them either. They're still human. They're still walking their paths. They still have their stuff that they work through. And some of my favorite teachers are the ones that are the most open about their humanity. Like, hey, I've got a little something coming up here. You see them walking through their stuff, not intellectualizing or separating or whatever. You watch them walk the walk. You watch as they work through things. Oh, I'm having this little trigger here, and okay, I'm going to work, this is how I work through it. And you can learn a lot from that, from being able to sort of walk beside them. But anytime there is a teacher student relationship, the student is not always the student. The student is often the teacher, and it's a collaborative experience. So teachers learn just as much from their students as their students learn from the teachers, I assure you.
And if the
So
teacher is not willing to learn from you, then that's another red flag.
yes.
If they're not willing to listen to what you might see or insights or validate what you think you see or insights, then that should be a red flag to you, in my opinion.
I have a question for you, Ariana.
Sure.
So I'm in a lot of spiritual groups on Facebook. And there are a lot of times somebody will put something out, and there's is an immediate go inside, the answers are inside, you don't need anybody, you know what I'm saying, like I need some help on this, or I need some guidance on this. And it's often enough it's not somebody where I feel like it's them being inviting victimization or totally giving their power away or whatever. They're just looking for a little bit of guidance, right? And the immediate answer is, you have all the answers inside of you. Well, some people don't know how to listen to their own inner guidance or whatever. So like what is your response to that sort of thing?
So I would say there's a difference between tell me what to do and hey you guys, I'm struggling with something and I really need some help. First of all, there's like those are two different frequencies. So
Yes.
what I will say to your example is the people that are like, you know the answer, just go within, they're actually invalidating that person's request for help and they're being abusive.
Thank you for that.
I find that abusive and it's not okay. It's
It feels just
invalidating. It's invalidating the request for assistance, and that's just to ask someone for help. I feel usually in that kind of a way takes humility and it takes courage. And then to have people come back at them and say, you know the answer, so why are you asking? Or how, even however they pose it, even if they pose it in a supposed loving way, they're still invalidating the humble request for assistance. So then from my point of view, the response needs to be posed as a suggestion. Here's what I'm getting. Maybe it doesn't resonate for you this way, but maybe ponder this idea. And if you're in a group where there's, say, 100 people and say 20 people respond, you might get 20 different perspectives that give this person an opportunity to take each of those answers and put it through their heart and their internal filter to find what aspects resonate and help them navigate the answer that they can't arrive at their own in their own way.
that is a beautiful perspective. And like there's something clearing from my throat chakra. as you're speaking, like for real, like I feel it like, "Woo, okay, we're ready to shift something. Thank you. Thank you for
Cool.
that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My
I'm so
pleasure.
glad
I'm very
yeah.
passionate about that kind of a thing. I'm very passionate about making suggestions as opposed to certain certainties, because nothing is certain.
Mm.
Was it in the last podcast you said there could be several different points of view or several different perspectives?
There's
And
not just
I didn't interject, but really my personal opinion is there's
infinite.
8.4 billion people in the world, there's 8.4 billion perspectives.
Yes.
Everyone has a different one, at least slightly splintered or fragmented in a different way. So
Yeah. There are no two perspectives that are identical. That that's kind of the point
yeah, absolutely.
of being individuals, is that we all have our own experiences, our own I look at it as like a pair of glasses with lenses, and they all have their own coatings and their own prescriptions and their own what they're all unique, right? It's not possible to see through somebody else's eyes. It's not possible.
Right. Well, and it's also not possible to take the exact same action of resolution that someone else takes, because some people need to forge forward like a warrior and barrel through the challenge, and other people need to walk on eggshells tentatively and make sure it's safe. And then the whole spectrum of options in between that and on other sides of it and above it and below it. So yeah, it's when someone gives you certainty about advice on how to take action, or advice on how to think something, or advice on what to say to somebody else from your mouth, it's highly unlikely that you should do it exactly the way they say it, because what they're telling you is how they would do it. And
I'm
they're
nodding my whole body in affirmation of what you're saying. Like I can't, my whole body is saying yes, yes, yes.
there may be bits and pieces that work for you, and there may be the pieces that don't work for you that trigger what does and give you the answers of what will.
I
So
love hearing you talk on this topic. I know that it's one of your soapboxes and you absolutely love it. And I'm just like, I'm super excited. Talk some more. Talk some more.
oh, you're so cute. Um, your own guru. Yeah, so we do all have the inner compass, the inner voice. We do have our answers within. But as you said, sometimes we don't know how to access those answers. We are all still learning how to navigate the barriers we've created within ourselves to protect us from whatever hurts or traumas that we're carrying. And so there's going to be areas where I know I've been through this, where I need to make a decision, and it's like there's a Vitamix machine in my brain just going, and I'm like, I cannot figure out the answer. And you just like kind of need to get grounded and just check in with some people that you trust. And somewhere within those answers, you can kind of like, oh, okay, so that piece that she said, and that piece that he said, and that piece that, and let me kind of put this down, and I feel okay because I've got some things to work with, and now I can calmly sort of look at this all, and my brain doesn't have to go through this scramble mode, and I can figure this out. And that's okay. That's okay. You're not always going to have just the answer. You're not going to always just go into meditation and have the skies open up and your guides come through and give you the answer. Yeah. Sometimes it's messy, and that's okay.
I love that so much. And some people do, and sometimes they get an answer that they're so sure of, and sometimes we can be a little misguided. Interesting. I keep my hang on a second. I'm feeling something coming through. I, and I'm not sure how to share it. Okay, so recently I spent some more time with Tia Lavoie, and in a previous podcast I shared some of her writing. And I admire her an awful lot. She is definitely at this point the most reverent person that I've ever met in my life, and I honor that. I asked her to I was like, so what's the deal with Adam and Eve? And she went on to tell this story that I wish that I had recorded, and I don't know that it could ever be emulated in exactly the same way, because it was clearly so channeled and so beautiful and so from the heart. And she just told the story about this guy, and then about Lilith, and though he didn't do what or she didn't do what Adam said to do, and so she was sort of taken off because she had her power, and she was like, excuse me, no, I'm not doing that, I am not going to be subservient to you. And so then God creates this other being called Eve, and at some point they're wandering around all naked and happy in the garden and doing their thing, and they encounter this snake who tells Eve, are you sure you know? I'm not sure you know, and puts that question in her mind that makes her say, I'm not sure that I know. And so she wants to know. And so then there's the fruit of the tree of knowledge, and she consumes the fruit. And that's a whole other journey that we can go down. But that I keep coming back to that, and that question of I don't know. And what really brings us back to that knowing within ourselves, because it is there, and that's what we're looking for. That's that hole that we're looking to fill when we have whatever addiction it is that we go out to try to fill the holes in the relationships, and this person will complete me, this $1 million will complete me, this acquisition of whatever, this level of success, this whatever that we feel like we want will complete me, when we're already complete and we already know. It's just a coming back to that. So whatever it is that you find around you that leads you back to that brings you back to your wholeness, that's really what it's all about. Anyway, I wish that I could share that story. That's like my little fumbling synopsis of them telling the story. She just told it so brilliantly. I really, really wish that I had recorded it, because my jaw was like dropped the whole time. We were driving, and she's driving. She would look in the rear view mirror, like make eye contact with me, every once in a while, because I'm sitting in the back seat, and she's like riffing off the story, and I was like, brilliant.
That's awesome. I would love to do a podcast on that, because I have some insights and stories that might be interesting to share there as well. And I think I sent you an email about an hour ago that also has some interesting stuff. So
Okay.
we're totally on the same page. Totally on the same page.
That is awesome. I just feel that it's super relevant to this, and to be your own guru, and talking about core wounds, whether or not actual Adam and Eve and Lilith and those beings ever existed the way that it is written in the Bible. It's highly, highly allegorical. But anyway, it's a there's a message there in like that question of something, putting the question in your mind of, do you know? And when did that first happen that you can remember, of somebody questioning, oh, do you really know? And that's where we start to give our power away, right? And that's where we get off track.
Right.
So this is a whole journey of coming back into our power and knowing, and this is not a narcissistic form of power, because the more that we are in line with ourselves and who we are and our own knowing, the more we can embody and share ourselves with the world, which is why we're freaking here.
Right, absolutely. So, the answer that comes up for me as you were telling that story is the passage from the Bible, be still and know that I am.
And you are.
Right, right. So be still and know.
And also the I am that I am that I am. I think that punctuation is in the wrong place. I feel really strongly about that. Or I am that I am. I think it's I am that period. I am period.
Oh gosh. Okay, so that's all for it ties into this, but I'd love to bring that up even more in a Garden of Even podcast. Garden of Eden
Okay.
podcast. Because what was that? Where was I tracking? There was something that I where I was going. Oh, be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I am. What that brings up for me, and this may not be what's specifically meant by that passage, but what it brings up for me is be still and know that I am, that God spark is within you. Be still and know that God spark is within. Be still and know that those answers are within. Be still and know that there is this connection to the source energy, God, creator, divine mother, heavenly father, however you align with the higher power that threads through all things. And how do you reconnect to that I am part of you? So,
Do me a favor.
yes, ma'am.
I'm backing up to hold space for it. Because there's something that you're able to bring through. Because because those passages are in the, I want to say, the Talmud. Is that true? Also, there's something with your Hebrew learnings, and there's something there because there's such massive power with the 72 names of God and the all of that with the Hebrew language. There's something there in the frequency of your vocal tones, something that wants to be brought through, and it's all on that same topic. So I'm gonna step back and let that's what I needed to drop in, and you need to speak.
Okay. Um,
It's okay.
I
We're
feel like
just gonna
that's a
open.
whole other podcast topic.
No, just bring
Yeah.
through the frequency of it. That's all I'm asking. Not just bring through the frequency of it. Tap into it.
So
I know you can.
I was going on a track, and maybe as I continue on my track, that'll sort of feed
Yes.
into where what you're picking up on.
Yep. Yep.
How do I connect to that I am part of myself? As I was saying, what I wanted to sort of segue into and then wind back to that is that I just got back from the garden island of Kauai and was so blessed to have the opportunity to sit with one of my mentors, Cami's mentors. We both have worked under Howard Wills, and sit with him. And one of the greatest ahas that is coming through for me now, and I'm kind of getting spirit is saying to run through some of these clearings for the listeners. I actually did these clearings on a client 2 days ago, and it brought her to tears. So if you begin to get emotional, please just stay with it, breathe through it, stay with the breath. Right. So how do I connect to that God spark part of me? So, for all the times and ways that you were unwilling to listen to that small inner voice, that divine spark, those messages from the God within, those messages from spirit guides and the God without, will you now forgive and release yourself? And please say yes out loud as I run through these clearings. There's power in the vocal cords, as Cami has just mentioned. And as you say yes and receive these clearings, it will help you tap in deeper to your own inner voice. So, for all the times and ways that you made excuses for why you weren't going to listen to those messages, those insights, that deep inner voice, will you forgive and release yourself for that? And for all of the times and ways that you did exactly the opposite of what that inner voice told you because you thought that you were making it up, that you must be foolish, that you were stupid, that everything that everyone told you about you being crazy or ridiculous or out of control was actually true when none of it was true. Will you now forgive and release yourself from all of that as well? So, for all of the times and ways throughout all of your life experiences in this lifetime and all lifetimes past and all lifetimes future, will you now forgive and release all of the times and ways that you push that small voice aside saying you were silly, that you invalidated yourself? by not listening to that voice, that you listened to what other people were saying instead of that voice, and release and let go of any of the disappointment, the anger, the shame, blame, and humiliation that may have resolved from not listening to that voice. Please release and let that go now. And can you now please go inward and find that little voice deep within your heart, deep within your soul, and just say, please forgive me for not listening. Please forgive me for making excuses. Please forgive me for invalidating you. And can you now please ask that inner voice to forgive and release you for those mistakes, that you're human and you're learning and you're trying. And now can you just tell that little voice within you, I'm going to try harder now to listen. I'm probably going to make more mistakes, but please know that now I'm really trying to listen, and I'm going to really try harder to do as you instruct me to do, because I know that you are here for me and that you love me and that you're guiding me in the highest and best way. And just know, little voice within me, that because I'm human, I may forget and I may make more mistakes, but I am trying. And please speak louder if you can, because I'm trying and I'm learning and I'm growing. You can all just take one more deep breath into the depths of your soul and your heart and release all the hurt, all the disappointment, all the self-anger, self-abuse, sorrow, and grief, and just blow it out and release it and let it go. And we say, please and thank you, please and thank you, please and thank you to ourselves, to that divine spark within, to our guides and angels that are cheering you on right now. I don't know if you can hear it and feel it, but I can feel it surrounding me, and I can feel it out in the ethers at any point in time and space where you're listening to this recording. I can tap into that now, and I can feel them cheering you on and know that they're there and they're with you. Thank you.
Beautiful. I went ahead and put myself on mute through that whole thing.
Oh.
I was like, let this come through.
So I'm not quite sure if that's the direction that you were thinking, but that's where I was headed. So
it's like whatever that is that helps her tap into whatever that is like the fire inside of her, that spark inside of her. Okay, so the Hebrew letters, to me, they light up, and the little accents that are included, those are licks of fire.
They are fire. Yeah, they are called fire.
They're fire codes. They're fire codes.
Yeah.
And so I have a feeling that was why I kept getting like, tell her, like, to help.
What was really cool is that Howard was talking to somebody else while I was in the room, and he was having them invoke some angel names. So you're like totally tapped in. It's so cool. It's so cool. And while it was really cool was, and I'll share this, so this will maybe appease this sense that you're getting, but he was having her invoke some of these angel names. And while I was sitting there, a totally unrelated angel name came through in my head really, really loud. And I was just like, whoa, what is that? One of them was Baruch Hashem. And now that I'm talking about it, the other one is going to escape me. And that one was, I guess, meant for me to save for another day, actually.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all perfect.
That's what I'm getting. Cool.
I know you will. When it aligns and the time is right, there is no forgetting.
Can we do a Tree of Life podcast?
Ooh, that's going to be a good one. Not one that I have really in-depth knowledge with. So I'll be like, hey, tell me more.
Be your own guru.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously, without divulging any names or, identifying situations, do you have a story to share of an example for the listeners of the type of less than what's the word I want? Less than respectable guru that you've come across?
I'm trying to figure out how I can share the story, that so I'm not sharing somebody else's story, because everybody else had their own experience. Definitely one in particular, and the blessings that came out of it are what I choose to focus on. The people that I met, the skill sets that I acquired, the gotchas, and the be careful who you give your power away to, um the the lessons in discernment that came out of this one particular multi-year, do I want to call it an apprenticeship of some sort, learnings. I met some extraordinary people, and I amped up my skill set like nobody's business. I did stuff that I participated in, facilitated levels of healing that I didn't know were possible. And this was years after I had done, things like QHHT and ancestral healing and other forms where I've seen miracles. I explored realms, of areas, that things that I did not know existed. And I learned how to not run a community when that actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I choose to take out of it and express right now, rather than sharing stories that involve other people and might reveal too many details that lead to pointing out who it is that I'm referring to.
Okay, I respect that completely.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely
I guess I was
traumatic. Traumatic. The
um,
experiences were traumatic.
yeah.
Initiations. Yes, trauma initiations. Absolutely, for myself, for everybody involved, trauma initiations.
Yeah.
That I can say it did not have to go down the way that it went down, but it did go down that way.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And major lessons. I'm a different person because of those experiences. That's all I can say.
Cool. Thank you. I was wondering if there was anything that you could point to that might be an example of this is possible, or this is a red flag, or something along those lines. But if
Okay. Sure.
that's not
Someone who says, okay, I'll drop a turn. Truth test it. Truth test it. Truth test it for yourself. Find out, is that true? Well, I'm getting a yes. A hard yes. It's absolute. Are you sure about that?
ooh, really?
Oh yeah.
That's so gaslighting, right?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that,
And let's just say to the listeners, when you're a young student still trying to get your feet wet and build your confidence, if anyone, even if it's not the teacher, but someone that you think shows up with more abilities than you says, are you sure? I know from my experience in my early years, I would have recoiled and be like, I'm wrong. I'm terrible. I suck. Right?
yes.
When 2 seconds ago I was sure of my answer. You've got to listen to your own answer.
Yes. So that is one example. Let me see. What else can I come up with that is saying that you're gonna do XYZ and deliver XYZ for X amount of money, and completely change the scene and say, oh well, we decided that we're just gonna change things out. I don't care what's in the contract. No, we're not. We're just gonna go with the flow. I just feel like that's not a way that, I mean, if I say that I'm going to deliver something, I really aim to deliver it. That's
Well,
why I don't. That's why I don't make a lot of promises.
what is it? The four agreement in the four agreements is be basically says do what you say you're going to do. Be impeccable with your word. That's agreement number one in the four agreements by, is it Carlos Castaneda?
I
You know
can't
who I'm
remember
talking
it.
about?
It's along those lines with
Yeah.
similar teachings, but I don't.
That one. Don Juan
Ruiz,
Ruiz.
Ruiz,
Ruiz.
Ruiz,
Yeah,
Ruiz
I
feels
love
warm.
the
Yep,
four
yep.
agreements. Friends, if you haven't read the four agreements, go find it and read it. Be impeccable with your word. If
Don Miguel Ruiz, Don Miguel Ruiz. Does that sound right?
Yeah, ding ding, that sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. So my first spiritual teacher was, as you said, Cami, earlier, very dynamic and charming and compelling, and had genuine abilities. So we were, kind of hanging on her every word because she was predicting things for each one of us that were valid. And she clearly enjoyed being in front of a group performing, as we, and there's nothing wrong with that, because I will tell you that I will light up like a freaking LED light bulb if I stand in front of people and I'm able to teach. I love nothing more than to have a room full of eager bodies that want to elevate their souls. But there was what we came to understand, an element of narcissism involved there. And one of the things that I want to share from my experience, and there are many with this one particular person, but she would invoke, the young students who thought she was amazing as her assistants to help with her scheduling and things of that nature. And I don't think, whether or not she paid them is none of my business, but I don't think she did. Whatever their agreement was is really none of my business. But what I did notice was, at some point, well, first of all, she would have this poor person constantly reschedule because she was always like, I don't feel good, I can't do it this time, I'm double booked, push everyone to tomorrow. So this poor girl was having to call us constantly, like, she can't do it today, she's got to do it tomorrow, and moving people around. It probably drove this poor little thing crazy. um if you've ever read The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron is the author of that. She goes very in depth in crazy makers in your life, and this was a quintessential crazy maker person. And I felt bad for the assistant because I knew what was going on, and this poor girl was trying to juggle a woman that she respected. Well, when that relationship, and this, I saw this happen multiples of times with multiples assistants, but I'm lumping it all into one experience. So when that relationship would eventually fall apart, whether the assistant would actually get a paying job elsewhere to pay their bills, or whether they couldn't take the crazy making anymore and they just had to move on, or whatever, the quote unquote guru would start bashing that assistant, telling everybody why they were a bad person, why they were incompetent, why they are gone, banned, not allowed to come back. And the girl is like, I just got a $10 an hour job elsewhere so that I could pay my rent, like, it was just weird. Insanity, total insanity. And when I realized that that was going on, the first time it happened, I believed that there was something wrong with the assistant. I didn't know the girl. The second time it happened, I turned to one of my friends who had followed this person for a while with me, and we're like, why would that happen twice? That's kind of weird. I thought that girl was doing a good job. The third time it happened, we were like, there's a big problem here. Right. The third time it happened, it was me. And what she started to do, I made the mistake of trying to help her, because I was like, oh, I can help her, right? I'm gonna come in and rescue her. Right. And when I realized that there were a lot of other factors in play that were going on, that it wasn't that she was a victim or that she needed help, or her personal life It wasn't her personal life. It was a lot of other things going on. There were drugs involved, there was insanity involved, there was narcissism involved. So I tried to gracefully back out, and then she started to tell people that I was practicing black magic. And I was like, well, surely no one will believe that. They know me. Nope. And that was a really hard lesson too, because there were so many people that still put her on a pedestal beyond how well they knew me. Some people who would talk to me on a daily basis and knew my heart and knew who I was and how I was really genuinely trying to help her, would stop talking to me because they thought I was going to put spells on them.
That was a projection.
Because yes, we later found out that this person was
Yeah.
doing spells on her
Yeah.
community real quick.
Absolutely 100%. And that was another thing that, not too many, but I've definitely had my challenging teachers, right? The ones that teach me the model how I really prefer not to be.
Right, which is so cool.
Yeah. So I want to share, I guess, where the pain points are of that. The most heartbreaking thing one of them was definitely more intense. Um, the most heartbreaking thing that came out of that multi-year experience with amazing, amazing people, was that people were left not knowing who to trust. And so not only did they not trust themselves, I mean, obviously that's like the core of it. These beautiful connections that we made with others, like there's still some not so sure, right? Especially if they're still involved in that container at all,
Right.
with these individuals, because it is absolutely a container. But even those that are outside of the container, there's still some reticence to connect, mistrust, not really knowing who to, because the whole idea of trust was just like completely upset. And again, comes down to self-trust.
Right.
That was really upset. So it's this misuse of power. And as you're speaking, I'm running these prayers silently for any misuse of power and whatever. That seems to be such a common one. And there's other levels of that really really are crying out for deeper levels of specificity, because just running that is hitting a frequency, but it's not complete.
Yeah.
There's more there that wants attention. I feel like I've got like looking for Howard's prayers because I want to read Howard's prayers.
Yeah, right.
I've got a lot going on right now. As you're speaking, there's a lot coming up. I'm clearing some things. There was another teacher that just really enjoys being in front of people, is a masterful facilitator. Really brilliant. And it's every teacher, as long as they're wearing a meat suit, we want to put it that way, a skin suit.
Yeah.
As long as they're wearing a human body, has human expression. They're still breathing. Therefore, they are still learning.
Has
Or
human flaws. Right. Yeah.
yes, or remembering. They are not infallible. So part of the problem is the power we give away to them, and the awe, and especially if there is spell work involved, how things can be manipulated. And like you said, you were saying these people know me. There's no way that they're going to think that about me. I know I've done that myself. Somebody that I've been friends with for years, where obviously there was some underlying question, because somebody calls into question their integrity.
Yeah.
And then I start to question, maybe there's something that let's look at that a little bit more deeply. And we can be swayed if we're out of alignment with ourselves.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what it comes back to. And that's the core topic of this entire podcast: is be your own guru. Come back to you, whatever it takes to come back to you, your own knowing who you are, where's your yes, where's your no, and developing that relationship with yourself and your own guidance, your own internal compass, to not give your power away. And I'm not just talking about spiritual pursuits. I'm talking about any relationship that you have: work relationship, personal relationship, romantic relationship, whatever it is, in not giving away your power. What is it that Howard says over and over and over? Speak up, stand up, do it your way. Speak up, stand up, do it your way. You just gotta speak up, stand up, do it your way. It comes down to that. And walking that. That's not like an overnight snap your fingers, all of a sudden you can speak up, stand up, do it your way. It's a
No,
walk.
even hearing you say that right now, I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, okay." And, he said that several times while I was there, and for some reason, it's hitting me differently right now. So, probably because I'm talking about those other older experiences where I really was vulnerable, and there's probably still some residual hurt from that. I've done a lot of work on that stuff, but there may be some stuff I have to go back in and clear, and look at.
That's and I
And
thank you. I thank you for, for listing and gently prodding on this topic. It wasn't really a prodding. It was you every time that we would discuss the titles and topics that we want to discuss, you would get all excited. I could for hours. I love that. It's my favorite topic. I'm so glad. Thank you. Because it's so important. There's so many different angles that we can take on this.
yeah,
And it really is actually the most important thing about being a human.
it is, and it's probably the hardest, I think, for me, the hardest line to walk. Being is standing in your own power, honoring your own inner voice, following your own inner compass, not being swayed by other people without being a
Jackass. Sorry.
selfish, self-centered. Yeah, I'm trying to find nice words because I have a trucker mouth when it really comes down to it. But being a self-centered, selfish bulldozer of a human being that doesn't care about other people around them. There's a line there.
There is a line.
There's a line there of honoring those around you. So here's the other thing that Howard says. And so these are the two halves of the line. The other thing that Howard says is God is neutral, loving, and supportive in all ways. So stand up, speak up, and do it your way, but be neutral. If you don't like how other people are doing things and it's not your business and it's not affecting you, be neutral. Be loving. Even if you don't like what they're doing, you can be loving about it and let them do their own thing their way while you do your thing your way. And be supportive. Support them in their choices as long as it's not bulldozing you or hurting you in some way. And as long as they're not hurting someone else or hurting themselves. So that's an area that I'm working on with one of my sons. I am trying to be supportive without supporting him mutilating himself.
Mm-hmm.
So there we are.
Mm.
Stand up, speak up, do it your way, be neutral, loving, and supportive in all ways. There was an example that I came across. This was not my client, but this was an experience that I sat in on, let's say. This woman had been married for 18 years and her husband had allegedly autism. So she walked on eggshells because of this alleged autism. And he wanted to have an open marriage. And she wanted to be neutral, loving, and supportive in all ways. And they went through a period where he had an affair that he didn't tell her about. So that went against the open relationship. So they agreed to close the marriage back to just the two of them for a while they sorted that out. And then after they did that for a while, even though their personal one-on-one sex life had not improved, he wanted to open it back up. And she was trying to be neutral, loving, and supportive in all things. What I felt was not being pointed out to her, and this was not my client, so I kept my mouth shut, was that she was not standing up, speaking up, and doing it her way. Because what I intuitively felt, and I could be wrong, but what I intuitively felt was what was in her heart was that she did not want an open marriage. She was doing it to appease her husband. She was afraid to tell him anything otherwise because he was quote unquote autistic. I personally think that that is code word for some level of narcissist, but he's convinced her of something else. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I do really feel that she did not have it in her heart that she wanted or really enjoyed the open relationship. She was trying to appease the marriage and do the right thing. And some of the things she was saying in the conversation that I was privy to made me think that that was the case. So walking that line of honoring yourself and still being respectful of others without bulldozing them over or letting them bulldoze you.
I'm thinking of an experience that I had toward the end of my marriage where we talked about opening the marriage, and I conferred with somebody who was poly, who asked me, are you really poly? Is this something that you're really looking for, or is this an excuse for you to leave the marriage? Are you done with the marriage? Like, really take a look at that. And I'm grateful I needed that question,
Yeah.
because I needed to leave the marriage. So sometimes honest questions need to be asked to help people be in their intent. So I can absolutely see that, and I'm sort of there's some other dynamics at play. I'm getting some information, and I'm just going to leave it at that. But yes, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I mentioned it to the other practitioner later because I didn't want to step on that person's toes.
Right.
So I had to leave it with them to either bring it up later and let that go. But I'm glad you had that encounter.
Good move on your part. That was it feels like that was in alignment.
Yeah.
Yep. I appreciate the way that you handled that. That's what I'm trying to say. I appreciate the way that you handled that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Is there anything else along the lines of honor yourself, be your own guru, listen to your inner voice?
I know we talk so much about Howard. I would just really like to say to anybody listening, please do yourself a favor. Go to howardwills.com, find his free prayers, the concise prayer program, print them out and say them. Just say the prayers. Deal with whatever it is that comes up for you as far as the use of the word God. If you have an issue with that, take a look at it. Like, really, what's that about? Right? Maybe there's something to look at, right? I'm just saying that is the wounding that you received around the word God, really, did that come from God? Or did that come from somebody else's idea of God and what they told you about God? I mean, just take a look at it, right? It's just a word. You call it a grand original designer. That's one of my favorites. A source, whatever words you need to use. You could even use yourself, your higher self. If
Yeah.
there is a formula to the prayers for a reason, and they are extraordinarily powerful. And we could, I'm sure, talk all day about our DNA containing trillions of years of thought, word, and deed of all of our predecessors, and those data packets being held in the DNA, and it being scientifically proven that trauma experienced by our ancestors is in our DNA. They've identified it scientifically. They've found it. It's there. And these prayers are physics. It just works. It just lightens the load. Please, it's something you can do on your own without anything to come back into you. Say the prayers, lighten your load. Please lighten your load. Please lighten your load. It doesn't need to be as heavy as it is. I'm saying this to myself. I'm saying this to anybody who will listen.
Yes, 1,000%. The concise transformational prayer program. I think that's what it. Oh, wait.
I'm sure you have them.
I have it right here on my desk. The Transformational Concise Prayer Program. Recommended use: recite each prayer aloud or in silence 3 to 5 times, all of them in the morning and then again in the evening. Please use God, infinite light, divine light, Lord, or whatever is appropriate for you when referring to the infinite. One of my favorites is so short and so sweet. We'll just share it since we're on the topic of Howard and his free concise prayer program. And I will just use the word God for ease. And if it offends you, just sort of take a deep breath and move on past it. God, please help me forgive all people. All people forgive me. Help us all forgive ourselves. Please, God. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you, God. Amen. That's it.
Did you feel
Short and
that
sweet.
already? It just
Help me forgive all people. All people forgive me. Help us all forgive ourselves. Please, God. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you, God. Amen. These prayers are free on his website. You can print them out, keep them in your car, read them over and over and over and over and over, and then read them some more until you're giddy and giggling and laughing and feel better than you've ever imagined you could possibly ever feel as an adult, ever, right?
it's true. You're not lying. It is you just like you're giggling and you don't know what you're like, I'm not even on anything. What is the deal with this? This is amazing. You're high on life. You're high on the light.
Right.
That's what the light does. It's miraculous. I love it.
I do too.
So I would like to describe, if I may, um, part of what I experience with the prayers and how my brain deals with it kind of on a more of a frequency scientific level. So I think of Jose Silva, and he was a radio technician, right? And he would notice that when wires were bent or had a something kind of like wasn't flowing quite right, there was a resistance in the lines that it would get backed up. It wouldn't flow properly. And when he released the resistance, the energy would flow. We are exactly the same. And so a lot of the things that we encounter, and I can't speak for Ariana and the way that we work, but I feel like there are some similarities there. So I feel for these spots of resistance in the wires, right? And I feel for those, to adjust those, and let's neutralize the resistance. So whenever there's a charge to something or a trigger, like a positive or a negative trigger, it doesn't matter. It's a trigger. There's a resistance there. There's a kink in the wire, right? So this level of neutrality, it just kind of like I use that noise. There's a noise in the lines that is like a little bit of static, right? And when you release that resistance, it goes quiet, and there's this neutrality. So Ariana was talking about God is neutral and supportive, right? We want to reduce the resistance in the lines, reduce the kinks in the wire, in order to maintain that flow and have that neutrality. Then we're not running with a bunch of noise that doesn't need to be there. These prayers create that for me. That's what I feel when that happens. And then I feel it ripple out. So I can feel the little blocks and resistances and pain points and whatever sort of let go and flow. And there's a space of neutrality and a lack of static and noise in the frequency. That's what I experience when I do these prayers. And it just makes things feel lighter. That's what I had to say about that.
I love that. I love that analogy. And I love that you brought in Silva, because I've been rereading his book, and his life is almost more profound than the modality he developed. It's just mind blowing. I guess what I'd like to add to your analogy is, like, you're describing sort of these lines. Let's you could even call them the energy lines, or the energy meridians through the body, that should flow straight and nice and evenly. And almost what I get similar to you is that when we have an upset or a negative emotion or a negative thought or a negative belief system within those energy lines, we either get a constriction or sort of a buckle or a zigzag where the energy is no longer flowing nicely. And the more that upset or density creates more difficulty in the flow, the closer you get to the dis-ease in the physicality that is created. And these prayers dissipate those negative thoughts, feelings, emotions, dissipate the density of energy and the burden of all of that, so that flow that channel can open up and straighten out and just flow better and evenly and quiet as you said. Yeah. I never really thought about it that way. So thank you for bringing that forth for me to sort of take a look at. Kind of cool.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you for the confirmation, but also for adding your perspective onto it, because that's what's so fascinating is that we all work so differently. And I know that you and I have talked about, doing some work live so that people can see like how we work. And we're not quite there. Um, we're touching on it. We're definitely sharing some
Yeah.
nuggets.
I kind of it's almost a nod to John Newton's group clearings, where there's knowledge and insight shared and brought forth, and then maybe some related clearings threaded in.
Yeah,
I think
I like that.
I like that format for people.
I do too.
So
I do too. Yeah.
I would love to see more of that. And hey, if you've got some comments, you can pop some comments in below and let
And
us
questions too.
and questions of what you'd like to see as far as clearing work and issues that you may
Ooh,
have. And yeah,
I like that invitation.
yay.
Thank you. And yes, I would love to see that from our listeners. What do you have coming up? What can we talk about? What can we help clear? What
Yeah.
can we help facilitate? That would be an honor and a joy. I would love that. Yay. Anything else that you want to share on the topic of beer on Guru for today? Or do you think we should close up?
I'm just kind of feeling the energy of it. I think in closing, what I would like to say is anywhere that you've been told that you are less than, or that you don't know, or that you're wrong, or that you do it wrong, that's someone else's point of view. That's someone else's opinion. And as hard as it may be, especially depending on where that voice has come from in your life, you need, I don't want to say need, but it would greatly benefit you to let that go, find a way to release that, undo those negative belief systems, because you do have those answers within you, even if you don't know how to access them. And you do have everything you need to be the best version of you. And you are your own guru. You are your own divine spark. And I will leave with one. I don't even do Bible stuff, but I have all these Bible quotes coming up today. I don't know what it's all about, but there's one, and I'm gonna misquote it, but it's something like, as I am, so you are, and more. Do you know that one better than I do?
It's one of my other favorites. Let me make sure that I'm getting it straight. I think it's John, I want to say 14:12. John 14:12 is another one of my favorites. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these. Yes, all this and more you shall do too.
Yeah.
It's right there. Yeah. So Matthew 7:7 and John 14:12, my two favorite Bible passages.
Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm. I feel very, very strongly about that. He was a master teacher who showed the way. There are people that are like, he didn't ever actually, walk on the planet. Well, whatever is written in this book that so many people have, there's a couple that, you might want to ponder.
Yeah.
And it definitely brings us back to you do know, and whatever leads you back to your knowing, bless that.
Yeah. And you are the most unique and perfect version of the perfection that God created you to be.
And yeah, and nobody else can do that.
So shine your light, my sweet little friends. Unabashedly, unapologetically, and with great confidence and fervor, shine your light.
I love it. Awesome. Until next time, folks, be your own guru.
You.
We love you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Conscious Conversations. We hope that the insights and wisdom shared here have resonated with you and sparked new pathways of growth and transformation.
We value your presence and engagement, and we invite you to be an active part of our conscious community. Your comments, questions, and shares contribute to the collective expansion of knowledge and awareness.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a comment or share it with someone who might benefit from these transformative conversations. Together, we can create ripples of positive change.
We also offer personalized sessions and resources to support you on your journey of personal growth and spiritual healing. Visit our websites, listed in the comments section, to explore the various energetic healing modalities and sessions we provide.
Remember, conscious growth is a continuous journey, and we're honored to walk this path with you. Subscribe to our podcast to stay connected and never miss an episode as we explore new dimensions of consciousness and elevate the collective vibration.
Join us next time for another enlightening episode of Conscious Conversations. Until then, keep expanding your mind and embracing the infinite possibilities that lie within.